Hi, I'm Caitlin, and this is Book Chats, and today's Top 5 Wednesday is my top 5 books of 2015. When I think about my top 5 books of 2015, what really struck me is that I wanted to talk about the books that you love so much and you enjoyed so much that you want to shove them on other people and make them also experience those books so you can talk about it with them together. And so I picked 5 books that I read during the year. This order does actually matter. This is the order that I really think that these go in. So book 5 is Lizzie Bright and the Buckminster Boy by Gary D. Schmidt. The thing about Gary D. Schmidt, he writes middle grade and it's so amazing. Like, I can't even explain how amazing it is. Like, the characters are so well-rounded and so fleshed out, and like no one is wholly good or wholly evil, and people have real flaws. This book I read at the beginning of the year, and I was able to actually get a couple of my friends to read it, and they also loved it, so I felt very validated and happy. I go from middle grade to a book that's written for adults. Book number 4 is Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. This book is so good and was personally so profound. It is a long and slow read to start because it is an adult novel, and it does take a little longer. The pacing is a lot slower than necessarily what you're used to if you read a lot of YA or middle grade, but it has so much to say about kind of family and faith and how family deals with loss and how family deals with sudden loss. It's basically the story told by the narrator, who is a young boy who is talking about how his family handled the summer when someone very close to them was unexpectedly died, and not in a way that was under mysterious circumstances, and kind of the investigation tied with that. It takes a while for that plotline to actually engage. Kind of the first half of the book, you're just like getting setting and learning things and just slowly going through life. And then about halfway through the book, the big thing, it's really about like how people personally deal with faith in the face of tragedy. Book number 3 that I'm going to talk about is the only one you guys actually haven't heard me talk about on my channel, and that's because I failed to post my wrap-up for November. I'm so sorry. I love this book so much, and if you have talked to me personally between when I read it and now, you will know I love this book so much, and I want you to read it. And it's so good that I almost reread it in December after having read it in November. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to reread it in January because it's so good. It is Bone Gap by Laura Ruby, and the best way I can describe this book is that it is a commentary on beauty and societal expectations towards women. And also, it is a very, very, very loose retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. When Persephone was captured, that part of the myth is pretty well known. It is kind of magical realism, I think, because it happens like in our world, but there are like magical elements, but they're not. They're this very vague and just kind of add to the setting and the atmosphere and kind of what's happening. And I have so much love for this book, and I can't really talk about it without spoiling things, why I specifically love it, but I really do, and everyone that I have recommended to so far who has read it has also really enjoyed it. And please consider putting this on your 2016 TBR. Like, please, please do. Now we're on to the 2 books that I talked about. You might already heard me talk about on Mari's channel, and I am going to keep this pretty short, but I am actually going to order them here. I like both of these books a lot, and I recommend them both to a lot of people. And kind of the reason that I pair them together on her channel, even though I'm terrible and I should have not, I should have separated them out, is because it's really hard for me to just straight up recommend the first book to people. The book that's my number 1, for reasons you will shortly see. But these are both really important books, and what I said there is true, which is that both of these books are about topics that are really prevalent, at least in the United States, and sometimes for everyone in life, and really need to be talked about, but we don't talk about them, and we don't necessarily know how to talk about them, and that's why we don't talk about them. And so these books they're both nonfiction, and they both kind of give a framework for talking about these things more. Book number 2 is Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. This is a wonderful book. I've talked about it at length on my channel and other videos, but basically it's about end-of-life care in the United States and how the healthcare system in the United States is not designed to deal with the fact that we all die. It is designed to fix what is wrong with you, and if what is wrong with you is that you are mortal, it does not know what to do. And so it kind of breaks down and what are the things we already have in place to try to kind of deal with that, and what do we need to continue putting in place. And so it talks kind of on a systemic level, but it also talks about, like, personally, like when you look at people who are facing kind of the end of their lives and know they're facing sort of the end of their lives and end of life care, like, how do you prioritize? So then I know that sounds like a super depressing book to read, right? It's about the fact that we're all dying slowly over the course of our lives. But it's actually pretty heartwarming and good, as opposed to this next book that I'm going to talk about, which is really dark, but very well written, and I think very necessary, and that is Missoula by Jon Krakauer. There's a subtitle, I don't remember what it is. Anyway, it is a book about rape and rape culture. So right away, I want you to know, huge trigger warning for rape and sexual assault. The book, it's not lewd or lascivious, but it does go into detail about what happens to each of the women that are interviewed in the book and that are contribute to the book, and it just is constructed masterfully. This is when I realized that Jon Krakauer is really an amazing author, an amazing nonfiction author. He constructs it in such a way where at the beginning and end he makes a point of saying that Missoula, despite the fact that he chose it because someone in an article called it the rape capital of the United States, it's actually average. Like statistically, it is average for the number of rapes and sexual assaults that occur and are reported in a town that size. And then he goes and he just starts out with a case that is just so clearly upsetting and wrong, and it just like says, okay, like this case is clearly wrong. Well, let's look at this case where it's a little grayer, and like let's look at this case where it's a little grayer. And like what this book is really especially about is acquaintance rape, not like stranger rape, but like acquaintance rape, and how our perception of it as like just random Americans is so not reality. And he does such a good job of going through and talking about consent, and consent in a variety of situations. Consent in situations where you know this person already, consent in situations where you just met this person, consent in situations where you've previously given consent but then withdraw it, consent in situations where people are drunk, consent in situations where one or both parties is drunk, consent in situations where there's been a previous relationship. I don't know how to convey to you how powerful this book is, and if you think you can handle it, or if you've been in situations where you've seen things about kind of rape culture on the internet, and you've been like, I understand like consent in these clear cases, but I do feel like there's so much gray area, and I don't know how to deal with that, because I think that's true. I think I've had very honest conversations with people off of the internet in real life, because on the internet it's scary to say stuff because it feels permanent, but I've had really honest conversations with people in real life who say, you know, as, I've had them with a couple guys who say, like, as a man, like, I'm so confused by consent in these situations. And I have conversations with other people who are like, well, if women just, like, will withdraw consent after the fact because they have regrets, or, like, it's just, like, it's so hard to talk about these things in like the nether, inconsequential, intangible world, and this gives us like a very tangible framework to talk about them in. And it also kind of addresses like how in different cases, like how the police handle this, and how the school handles this, and how the public in the form of a jury and a trial handles this. And it's just so interesting, and interesting in a way that I mean, like, it's so ripe for discussion. And that's why I talk about this book so much. I really would love you to read this because I really want to talk about it, but I also really understand if you can't. Like, I really understand if this, like, looking at this or hearing the description, you're just like, I cannot read that book. It is going to be too hard or too depressing, or it's going to trigger something or whatever. Like, I totally understand. And I understand if you start it and you think that you can do it and then you can't, but it's just I can't convey to you how important I feel like this book is, because I really think it is, and I really feel like it does such a good job of explaining so many complicated things and of asking questions that need to be asked and letting you answer them from what is given to you in the text, which I think is also really important. Oh my goodness, I can't. You should have seen my face when this book was beat by modern romance in the Goodreads nonfiction choice awards, because anyway, I'm sorry. Those are my top 5 books of 2015, going from like more like fun and less depressing to like really difficult reads, but I feel like all of them are actually really ripe for discussion. I think that's really part of what made these books that I shoved on other people and books that are really my favorites, is that they just bring so much to the table for you to then pick apart with other people. The topics that are here are just so ripe for discussion, and all of these books give you so many good things to discuss around them, and that's why I love these books. And I'm going to just close this out here. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. Thank you so much for those of you who are new to my channel and just found me for watching, and for those of you who stuck with me for a long time, for my friends and family who watch. I really appreciate that you guys watch me talk on the internet. Thank you. And I am so excited to see what 2016 holds for this channel, and also for my reading and for yours as well. And so let me know down below if you read any of these 5 books that I loved, and also what your top 5 maybe for 2015 were, or even if you just think of it, one book that you have shoved on the most people that you read in 2015. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye! I just feel like the Goodreads Choice Awards are a popularity contest, and like, I don't mean to take away from any of the winners, but I really do feel like that, and it's frustrating.